Hi, welcome to Race House with me, Joe Lee.
And me, Darren Reeves.
It was the Miami Grand Prix 2024, always such a colourful and vibrant scene at this one. And it was a massive weekend. We had a sprint race, we had a big race, and we had plenty of action. I really enjoyed this race, Darren. There was a lot happening and a surprise winner.
Well, mate, look at us dressed up in our. Well, you're in papaya.
This is number 4.
I found the cat. There, mate. You have got everything. I'm just here in an orange T-shirt that I pulled out quickly from my suitcase, so to join in with the party. But buddy, whether it's McLaren, whether it's a British winner, whether it's a new winner, whether it's just Max Verstappen actually being beaten on track, this is a bit of a historic weekend for Formula One.
Yeah, congratulations to Lando Norris, his first ever Formula One win. I can't believe that. It seems impossible. He's been on the podium many a time, first ever win. And yeah, they were super enjoying this. Well done to the McLaren team. Oscar Piastri was leading the race at one point as well. But then he had some problems a bit later, which we'll talk about. But yeah, congratulations to Lando and the McLaren guys. Let's go back, though, because it was a big weekend. We had the sprint. And, you know, Lando was out of that sprint. So I don't think anyone really expected him to, you know, win the race.
I think we've been watching McLaren progress over the last 12 months, really, since Austria. They bought some big upgrades back in the middle of the season, and suddenly they were like the most improved team of 2023. And we've been waiting. But they said, right, Lando has 10 upgrades and Oscar has half of them. So there's a little bit of me that isn't surprised. The stars had to align, but they've been promising another upgrade. And when we've seen upgrades from McLaren in the last 12 months, they've been brilliant. So, both cars look great on track today. And well, in fact, is it today? Is it yesterday? We don't know what we're watching, Joe, do we? Because I had to watch it delayed. I was in the car. It was in the middle of the night for you. So it's a strange time zone thing for us. Sadly, we weren't in Miami. But I am not surprised. They've been promising it. But after Lando's qualifying, where he went wrong in Q3, the lap time was there right the way through qualifying, and he could have started up front. He's been fast all weekend, and this has just fulfilled the promise beyond belief.
It really is. It's so nice to see another winner. And I actually woke up and stupidly looked at my phone, so I knew that he won before I watched it. So I didn't get the surprise. I know. And do you know who spoiled it for me? Zach Brown, because he put it all over his LinkedIn. So seriously, because I follow Zach on LinkedIn. So thanks a lot, Zach. You spoiled it for me. But no, I know you're very excited. So next time I know if I'm doing highlights watch, not to look at Zach's page or anyone's
You've
page.
got to stay away from absolutely everything, mate. Turn your phone off.
It's true. It's true.
I got in about midnight last night, and I just said, right, I'm going to get up really early in the morning and just watch it as live. So I was up at 7 a.m. this morning UK time, and just sat there through it, and it was a total joy to experience just seeing another car win. You know, it's been Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari that's beaten Verstappen, but it's because Verstappen's had problems. Just 2 races, Verstappen had problems. Sainz was there to win it, not Perez. And to see a new team, this bodes really well now for the rest of the season. We've had 6 races. We've had 3 different winners, 3 different teams. We were expecting total domination, which we saw 2 weeks ago in China. You know, it was probably the most dominant win we'd seen Verstappen in the Red Bull do. But for me, this really excites now moving forward. And Oscar's going to get all the rest of the upgrades in Imola in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, well, it's going to do well for McLaren as well. You know, they're currently sitting third in the Constructors' Championship after that performance.
Yeah.
124 points. I mean, they're on the heels of Ferrari, but, you know, Ferrari are consistently getting points. Sainz had a great drive. Leclerc had a terrible start on that race. I mean, just the start, the boost wasn't there, and Max managed to get away, although they all nearly got taken out by Checo Perez.
Absolutely. Checo, they talked about him having a jump start, but nothing ever happened from it, did it? but he
No.
literally flew into turn one, and how he didn't clip the back of Max to take him out in a spin, or even take the Ferraris and Lando as well. I think Lando had to take evading action, he said in his interview afterwards. Checo, I think it's the first mistake he's made all season, to be honest with you.
It was a strange one. He wasn't able to turn, basically. He just kind of cut across everybody. And how he
Yeah.
missed everyone, including Max, I do not know.
But it
that was
compromised
surprising.
him. Yeah, compromised him.
It really did. Also surprising to see the Ferraris in blue.
Well, this is I've been so I love all the razzmatazz of Formula One and merchandising and all the liveries.
Cool
are
liveries.
So
Yeah.
important. Ferrari for me are red, and if they're going to change to anything, it's got to be yellow. So this is where it goes on now to the sponsors, which is Mission Winnow, who wanted the blue to do with America, because there's lots of blue Ferraris out there.
Is that what it was? I thought it was
something
HP, maybe.
Do you know what? I'm only going with something I heard somebody talking on a podcast or a race preview. But to me, I just didn't like the change. What I loved last year is we saw Williams put the American flag on the back of Logan Sargent's car, and it looked really cool. And they did the same with Alex with the British flag, I think, didn't they, at Silverstone? That looked really cool. And there's a couple of times where we've seen Alpine go completely pink, but this just seemed a bit weird for me, in the same way as seeing fake water in a marina at the side of a track. It's a bit strange, but it's the razzmatazz that America brings to Formula One, and I think we have to embrace it. We have to accept it. But I didn't get it at all.
Well, I've just had a quick look, and there's two blues: Azzurro, which is blue in Italian, so Azzurro La Plata, which featured heavily on the overalls worn by Alberto Ascari, who became Ferrari's first ever F1 world champion in 1952, before securing his second in 1953. And another blue, Azzurro Dino, is a darker shade of blue that was worn by the likes of Niki Lauda and Clay Regazzoni.
Zoni, yeah. I can remember Regazzoni wearing that blue, actually. I can't remember seeing Lauda in
but
old
they've also, and it coincides with HP coming on and being a sponsor. That's the kind of their blue I'm looking.
And they used to be with Williams, didn't they? Which is blue, so it makes complete sense.
Yeah, so maybe it was a bit like, we're going to turn you blue for a race. I don't know, but maybe there's a bit of HP in there. I don't know. Shell sometimes go a bit of blue with the V-Power stuff. So I don't know. I wonder if Mission Winnow is still a sponsor, because essentially it was a front for Marlboro.
Yeah.
And as we know, Marlboro were a long-time sponsor for many, many years. And Mission Winnow were kind of like a think tank. But I don't know. It was quite obviously a conduit to keep the sponsorship money without advertising tobacco.
Yeah.
Whether or not they're still a sponsor, I don't know. But it is very interesting. Look at the Visa Cash RB. I mean, I thought it was a really cool livery.
Me too. I loved
it. And that's the best thing about that car this season.
Well, you say that, but you mentioned the sprint earlier. Let's talk about Daniel Ricciardo in a really cool liveried RB. I've always struggled with the livery for Red Bull's second team, because it just looks like a poorer version of the Red Bull livery, which it sort of is the car, a poorer version of the car. But this was really cool. Somebody had designed it really, really well. And Daniel Ricciardo, what a sprint race!
Unbelievable.
Where did that come from? Fourth on sprint qualifying, up to third. Of course the Red Bull was going to get past him of Perez, but he held on to fourth place, fended off the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. I thought that was a brilliant race, and then 3 hours later, he qualifies at 18th and ends up with a penalty and starts at the back of the grid. No chance whatsoever to do anything at all.
Finished 15th,
Yeah. Really, Yeah, it just shows you the highs and lows of motor racing,
Mm.
which I've been experiencing as well this weekend. But you get a lot more lows than you get highs. When the highs are there, they are phenomenal. And look at what Lando's had to deal with. He's stuck with
Yeah.
McLaren through thick and thin since he took over from Alonso in 2019. They had a little peak when in September 21, when surprisingly Ricardo won at Monza, and Norris finished just behind him, but they kept team orders. Norris could have won that because I think he was the faster car that day.
Mm.
Then the following race was Sochi in Russia, where Lando was leading it with about 3 laps to go, and it rained, and he lost it on the slicks, whereas Hamilton went in, changed tyres, bosh, in the rain.
Mm.
Managed to get past and win it. So
Well,
Lando's been really unlucky, and then suddenly the form of McLaren just dropped off a cliff for 2022 and half
mm.
of 2023. But I think the journey, it's those lows that make these highs so amazing.
Well, talking of lows, I mean, I didn't think I'd see the highlight of the back would be a tussle between Hamilton and Magnussen during that sprint. I mean, it's not a rivalry you think is going to echo
Well,
through the eons,
it,
but it just shows what struggles Mercedes are having with their car. That's pretty much the kind of battle that Lewis is looking at these days. That was on, off, on, off. I mean, there are penalties being thrown around left, right, and centre. I mean, Hamilton was complaining like a grass in a schoolyard. So it was just so insane to watch and think this is Kevin Magnussen, who, let's not forget, came 18th with no points in the race as
yes,
well.
yes.
Hamilton did manage to come 6th, which is probably one of his best results recently. Yeah, I mean,
And
what
he
was that
and
about?
he was fighting with Hulkenberg, wasn't he? For the
Yeah.
sprint, he was fighting with Magnussen. For the race, he was fighting with Hulkenberg.
Mm.
But it just shows you the drop off in form from Mercedes and the increase in form from Haas as well. We all love Gunter Steiner, but I do think that from Gene Haas, he's made the right decision for the team to move forward and on. They've definitely improved this season. I do think they've got a good driver lineup for a mid place team. And but we need to talk about Hulkenberg, don't we? There's some news this week.
Well, it looks like there is. Yeah, he is off. And he's going to Stake. Is that right?
That's absolutely right. Stake Sauber, which is, of course, in 2026, is going to be Audi,
Mm.
German manufacturer,
German
German
driver.
driver. So the question is, though, who's he going to replace?
Well, take your pick. I mean, both. I mean, I think it's going to be Bottas because the Chinese connection is so strong. They want to keep a Chinese driver there. I think it's Bottas out. I mean, he had he's got terrible form at the moment. I think he came 16th in this race. No points, not happening.
Yeah.
Cool guy, fun guy. I've met him before. Lovely guy. But this not bringing in the results. This is
Well,
so far from the Bottas and the Mercedes we saw.
terrible results, terrible taste in hair, in my opinion, as well. And what does make it strange is at the Monaco Grand Prix last year, I had my hair cut by some guys, great Australian guys, who also cut Bottas's hair the same weekend into
No,
what it is now. So I think I got away lightly.
you got a ponytail.
No, if I did, it'd be stuck to the cap.
Get the mullet going. No, it wasn't anything. Look, that's big news. I think even bigger news.
Yes.
Adrian Newey. Adrian Newey is bound out of Red Bull after 18 years, I think. He was previously at Williams. He was previously at McLaren, then Red Bull, and what a ride he's had with Red Bull. Now, everyone is saying, well, can you guess where he's going to go? Is it a done deal? Is he going to be wearing red tops next year?
If you'd have asked me a week ago, I would have said it's a 50-50 between Ferrari and Aston Martin, because I do believe Lawrence Stroll will put whatever money it takes to get whoever it takes into Aston Martin to make them world champions at some point in the next few years. And of course, Adrian Newey is one of the people who'll be top of the list.
Yeah.
But this weekend, everybody in the paddock, every TV program. Ted Kravitz, all the Sky team, and all the Channel 4 team that we've been watching. Everybody has been talking about it, and there's been a couple of little hints. One from an interview from Lewis Hamilton saying, "I'd love to work with Adrian Newey. It'd be an honour," with a little glint in his eye. And when I thought it was really lovely when McLaren were doing the team photo that they do, they do in the paddock or the pit lane, wherever afterwards. And Zach Brown was there coordinating, but my mate Frank Vasseur was there celebrating
Fred.
with McLaren. That's the one. Celebrating with McLaren, and he had a little bottle of champagne as well that he was getting ready to spray everywhere. He was really, really happy for McLaren. He was really, really happy for Lando. He was really happy for Ferrari just because Red Bull looked infallible. But why is he really happy? Is there something else?
I think it's a done deal. I mean, he's always said that he would love to work with Ferrari and he'd love to work with Lewis Hamilton. And they're the two things that he's not been able to do yet.
Yeah.
Here, he would do it in one fell swoop. Maybe this must have been planned ages ago, because Hamilton bolted first, and I'm sure there's been shenanigans. I don't know. I'm super excited now. Can we fast forward yet? Can we do it now to
Just move
next year? I want to see Lewis in the red.
Even 2026, mate. This is March, or whenever it is, February, March 2026 is where we're going to see fireworks. But now, I just have a little bit more hope for Formula One after this last week of events. Whether it's Adrian Newey, whether it's Ferrari, whether it's Lando and McLaren, we just have a bit more hope that it's really, it changes so fast. Newey, Hamilton, Ferrari. Is it the dream team that gets that elusive, unprecedented 8th World Championship?
It sounds incredible. 8th World Championship. That would be amazing. I mean, as I said, I was there at Abu Dhabi 2021. Still, I'm not over that. It's getting better. Imagine if you were Lewis, but still, reverberates around my soul.
Yeah.
That could have been 8. But we talk about this a lot. Nico Rosberg, that could have been 8. For him, for Lewis. If he didn't lock up in Baku, then he could have had 8. So there's a lot of what ifs and what if. Whatever happens, and wherever Max goes, I think Max is still under contract to Red Bull anyway next year. Well, you don't know. These contracts are like hearts; they're made to be broken, aren't they?
Yeah. I think Max can stay wherever he wants to stay until he wants to. In the same way that we're just watching Lance Stroll stay where he wants to stay for as long as he wants to.
That's a different story. Yeah, but I mean, apparently Max has been offered about 150 million or something by Mercedes. Super massive deal.
Do you know what?
You can see Red Bull disintegrating, and Red Bull could just turn into an also-ran team.
But surely you get to a point in life, whether it's 50 million, 150 million, 250 million, you can't spend that sort of money as a human being. You can give that sort of money away, but you can't actually spend it to improve life. And so I don't think the money makes any difference at all. I think Max will watch what goes. You see it in football as well. You see footballers move to teams when they think it's on the slide. Are Red Bull on the slide? There's something definitely not right there. That's for sure.
There's something going on, and he smells blood. I think Max does. Jos as well is instrumental to that.
Yep.
You've seen a lot of times Jos and Toto in the paddock having little chats and things. It really is like a massive 6-month transfer window. That's how it seems to me now.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Worry.
That's quite exciting.
I worry for Mercedes, though, and Toto. They seem completely lost at the moment. Hamilton's obviously not interested anymore. He'll just drive the car. There's a big part of me, again, what if money's got nothing to do with it, why doesn't Lewis go, listen, if you want to put Antonelli in the car, rather than stick him in the Williams, which there's talk about him replacing Sargent after the summer break, why don't we just put him in a Mercedes and see what he does? And Hamilton, get out of your contract, get into that Ferrari garage and start work on next season now. Why?
Sounds nice. Yeah, it's probably contractual things, I guess.
But what's you see my point? Once people's minds are made up, And
Yeah.
Lewis doesn't need to finish 5th or 6th. He's had 2 6th-place finishes this season. What's he doing even turning up, to be honest with you? He doesn't need to.
Yeah.
For George, he does need to develop that car. He does need to take number 1 status in that team. It needs a new direction, and Toto knows that. My worry is whether Toto owns the team, to be fair, along with Mercedes and Ineos, but there's lack of direction, and I think I think losing Hamilton early would actually be a good thing for the team moving forward. I'm throwing it
Yeah.
out there. Yeah, just throwing it out
I
there.
agree. It's kind of like when you go to quit your job, and you've got to give something stupid like 2 months notice, 3 months
Yeah.
notice, and you just switch off. You switch out of it. You suddenly kind of walking on a cloud. You don't really care about the ongoing things because you're like, I'm out of here soon. Now it's been a while since we both had a job, so that feeling. But I think I'm casting my mind back to a job that I did give notice to and left. There were a couple back in the day in my early 20s, and you feel like there's one in particular which I hated, and you're just walking around there thinking, oh, I can't wait, just 1 month, I'm out of here, I'm gonna do what I need to do, steal as much stationery, allegedly, and then get out of there. So I agree with you, and give some of these young guys a chance, because we've got lack of rookies. We've talked about this before, lack of rookies on the circuit. Give them the experience so they can get in those cars. I actually really agree with you on this, thinking it through. It's a valid point, Darren, and we'll have you on the podcast again.
Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Let's just talk about being in America. Logan Sargent's home race. He grew up just round the corner from the circuit. He did go-karting there as well through his childhood.
Is he from Miami?
I think he's from Florida. I'm not quite sure exactly where, but how unlucky was he? Come on, Kevin, you're better. You're better than that.
I don't think he saw him, did he? He passed him and did the maneuver, and then he just thought, "Okay, this is my line now. I'm in
just
front."
took the race,
and
he just took the racing line, and Magnussen went for a gap that wasn't there, took him out. He managed to carry on, but then he got this 10-second penalty, Magnussen this is, and didn't take it. So I am not quite sure how that's played out. It's got him 19th and last, other than Logan. So at the end of the day, who cares? It doesn't really matter.
But does he need to serve that next race?
I don't know. I just haven't seen anything about it, and I've not done my research because I've been tied up. But we'll see what happens, of course. But Magnussen's better than that. With Nico Hulkenberg leaving Haas, that leaves a door open for another rookie possibly at Haas. Maybe Logan Sargent, because Haas are an American team. And I think with 3 races in America,
he's smashing up quite a few cars, isn't he? I mean, they kind
he
of
certainly has. Maybe we need to see another American. There was another guy talked about for McLaren a couple of years ago, Carlton Herter.
I can't remember.
Colton Herter, yeah. And there was talk about him
yes.
coming in, but then that's drifted off again. I don't know if he's in IndyCar or NASCAR. I need to look. But we need an American driver in Formula One in the same way we need an Asian, a driver for the Chinese Grand Prix like Zhou, and the Japanese and Malaysia, with Albon and Sonoda. We need to represent the world as well as represent the best 20 drivers, because it's not just a sport. It is entertainment. It is massive, and it has to have that representation of that to bring the people to see the show.
Yeah, it does indeed. I mean, and we need to see drivers of good caliber doing well. And one of those, one of my favorites at the moment is Sainz. I thought he had a brilliant race.
Well, brilliant season.
It's a brilliant, and a brilliant season. He did so well. He came 4th in this race. Chinese Grand Prix, just custom, he came 5th in the Chinese Grand Prix. He was 3rd in the Japanese Grand Prix. He won the Australian Grand Prix. This is a guy who is like consistently getting results there. Surely he can't be overlooked for, say, a Mercedes seat or an Aston Martin seat.
Yeah, I'm still going to put my money on Aston Martin. I can see him.
Alonso's resigned.
Oh yes, he has. You're no. You're absolutely right. Yes. So you are only looking at Stroll there, but what a dream team to have. You got 2 British drivers this season at Mercedes. Sadly, they haven't got the car, But I think having two Spaniards in the Aston Martin is
Hmm.
very exciting for Spain. I love the idea of that.
And two Frenchies in Alpine,
In
and Ocon got a
well,
point. Way, well done,
well,
Ocon.
at
You
one
get
point,
fireworks for that.
I thought they were. Hey, there it is. I thought they were going to take themselves out though, because they went through three or four through that bridge
Oh,
complex, chicane bridge
yeah.
complex. Well, what are they doing? What are they doing? There's no love lost between the two of them. They've known each other all their lives. They karted together. They're racing together side by side in Formula One in the same team on the same track. But I think whatever upgrade I think that the floor is the upgrade on the Alpine. But whatever it is, they've definitely moved up and out of that last place. Williams now are clearly in last place. In pace, they both finished last.
Mm.
Obviously, one got knocked out, unlucky, but Sargent generally finishes last anyway. That's a given. So for me, they've moved up a bit in the order, really. Above Kick Sauber. You can see it in the constructors' championship with that 1 point, but
Gasly
they
still
look
has no points. It's ridiculous
no,
in the
but they're
standings.
both. It is crazy considering he was only in a Red Bull 3 or 4 seasons ago. But it was too soon in his career. He's a better driver than what car he's in. Ocon is as well, I think. But there seems to be no leadership in that team, whether it's as the driver lineup. There's no number one driver. There's no leadership in that team, whether it's
No.
from the current management in the team or whether it's from the hierarchy of Renault, because they are a customer team in the same way that Mercedes and Ferrari are. Um, no leadership whatsoever, but there's a definite upgrade there. So well done, Alpine this weekend. It's the first time I've been able to say that this season.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well done. You got a point,
Mm.
I think. Is that about right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So nothing too crazy to write home about. It's interesting. I mean, this season is really interesting. We're seeing, look at McLaren. How they've really done so well. Ferrari are looking great. Mercedes a bit off. You've got these other also around teams, but I just think it's such a fertile and healthy season actually, and that any of these guys could really kind of get involved and win. So I think, yeah, if Max has more problems, and let's face it, he had a couple of problems. He hit the bollard and he came in, and then he lost his position, so that all helps. But if we can just keep sending all the bad luck to Max, we're gonna have a really really fun season.
Yeah.
Well, so and let's move on as well to pre-Formula One, karting. So what have
Yeah.
you been up to in the karting world?
So the reason I've been a little bit not quite engaged with Formula One this weekend is because on Thursday morning, myself and my son Lucas Reeves, we drove up to Cumbria from as good as Portsmouth from the south coast, and so we drove up from Portsmouth to Cumbria, which took me about 8 hours to a karting track called Rowra for rounds 3 and 4 of the Super One karting championship, sponsored by Rally Replay. That's how I have to say it, apparently.
Rally Replay.
Rally Replay from Chichester in West Sussex, very near where I'm from. So and I have to say, the organisation and the event itself is amazing. It's all covered on YouTube, on Super One TV, whatever it's called, and it's all done brilliantly. So we've been there. We had practice on Friday, and then we had round 3 of the championship on Saturday, and round 4 yesterday. And really, it's the first season my son's been in it, so we're sort of seeing where he sits. And rounds 1 and 2, he was really midfield. He had no luck whatsoever this weekend, and with a few little mistakes as well, and drop nose cones give you a 5-place penalty as opposed to 5-second penalty that we're used to in his club championship. He just no luck whatsoever, but he drove amazingly. And then suddenly he's in a gravel trap, or suddenly he's in a barrier, or suddenly he's got a drop nose cone, and the speeds these karts are doing to stand next to the race. You know what it's like to stand next to a Formula One track, and it's so exhilarating, these cars. To see these kids with nothing around them, no protection, just a helmet and a few bits of plastic and metal, and driving at the speeds they're driving. It was a wet weekend until the pre-final and the final on Sunday. But, you listen to Lando Norris's dad talk about the highs and lows of motorsport after the race, and he said there's way more lows than highs. And this weekend, I've got to experience it, plus a 6.5 hour drive home that we literally did a 10-minute stop on, all the way back, 350 miles. And we're ready to get on to the next round really quickly.
Yeah. Wow,
it's
amazing.
Lucas drove brilliantly, but he just had no luck. Got into a couple of little scrapes. It was a track he'd never driven before, but this Rowra track, if anybody gets to go and see it, it's in an old quarry that's been dug out, so it's like a bowl in the middle of the
Wow.
Lake District. And you drive in from the top, and you see it. You look over it, and the paddock with all the tents and trucks and motorhomes. It's mega, and
Amazing.
and to be part of that circus. And I've managed to watch a couple of the races back on TV this morning, just to see if Lucas gets mentions or whatever, and just to really watch it again from a different perspective rather than stood at the side of the track. It's Joe, you've been to Forest Edge. It's so exciting. It's ridiculous. And seeing the grassroots of motorsport, the only difficult thing for any parent, and that's me, is it's so expensive. Like this weekend, one of the other parents says, you could have taken your whole family to Spain for a long weekend, don't you, for the money you've spent this weekend? Well, we're lucky to get a little bit of local sponsorship from Jacobson Hunt in Petersfield and Opus Grand Prix, who we're going to be in Monaco with, and always looking for more. But it's really hard because you need to be at the front of the grid, and the more money you spend, the further up the grid you are. And it's no different in Formula One. And it's a business model that you need to start from and it's only sponsorship that can make it happen, because nobody can afford the money, whether it's in Formula One or unless you're Lawrence Stroll.
Yeah.
So Lawrence, if you're watching this,
yes. If you're watching this,
help us
give
out.
me your money.
It's a beg. It's a beg now.
He needs a helicopter to get to these things.
Yes.
Within half an hour, that'd be helpful. And plenty of sponsorship. If you are interested, there's some really good sponsorship opportunities.
But also, Joe, we must also remember the dangers of motorsport, where at whatever level, and we've just seen the 30th anniversary of Ayrton Senna, who lost his life at Imola, the next track Formula One is going to. And it's funny you should say about a helicopter, because I'm watching a helicopter come into land over the circuit on Friday. And I was like, oh, who's this? Who's coming in? Who's you got a VIP or somebody's kids drive? I know David Coulthard and Mika Hakkinen's sons race karting at the moment, similar age to Lucas. It was the air ambulance coming in, wasn't it? And I felt terrible. And one of the Bambinos, the 6 and 7-year-olds, had flipped the cart and ended up being flown. The reason I'm telling the story is they're absolutely fine, other than a slightly bruised lung and bruised pride, really, and back home. But it was my first instant was, oh, who's this coming in? Not what's happened. And that, I think that's me with my entertainment hat on, really. And it's really dangerous, really, really dangerous sport, but it's just the most exciting.
It's the most exciting thing, and if you can get to one of these races as well, your local karting club or circuit, it's phenomenal to see these kids going around the corner at 70 miles an hour. You can check out a previous video that we did over at Forest Edge many moons ago, and this summer I'm hoping to come and experience it again. So maybe one a bit closer.
Well, there isn't a closer one, Joe. I think there's one down in Dorchester, Clay Pigeon. So that's Lucas's home track, and we're down there for the next 3 events, actually, because we're there for the club championship. Then Super One is there, and then back to the club championship again.
Dorchester, book me in, get your tickets, folks, get involved. And as Darren said, the next race is Imola. It's called Emilia Romagna now.
Yes.
And it's going to be a good one. It's a very old circuit. It's one of the classics, as they call it. We're looking forward to that. You love it, huh?
Yeah, I love it. And what I love is when they come down into the last 2 corners, there's this house where people are sat having glasses of wine on their balcony with the washing out, watching the Formula One. It's a wonderful track, like you said, old school track. but just brilliant with a great hairpin into a long straight. But we'll always remember Tamburello curve and the sad passing of Ayrton Senna, and of course Roland Ratzenberger the day before as well. So
That's
it's
right.
it's got history, good and bad.
We'll be there making history, doing the next review at the Emilia Romagna, formerly Imola. That is in a couple of weeks. So stay tuned. And again, if you're on Twitch or on Facebook Live, please like and subscribe to us. We're on the YouTube channel as well. And we'll be going out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the rest. So from now, it's goodbye from me, Joe Lee.
And it's goodbye from me, Darren Reeves. Take care.
Take care.